One.
Hello, good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. This is Brian Mercer, author Brian Mercer, and psychic medium Jamie Butler, and we're here with Animals in the Light Show, which is a show about animals and what happens to them after they cross over and how they interact with their lives and sometimes come back into our lives. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, Brian.
So I think I have some questions for you, Jamie, and then hopefully, if we have time, we'll do a Q&A with our audience. So that's going to be, the questions will actually be where, Jamie? Will they be at Facebook?
We are on Facebook right now only, and then we'll post our video up on YouTube after this is done.
Got it. I got it. So I'll be sure to log on Facebook so I can see your questions. So if you can hold your questions for now. So here's my first question to you, Jamie. And I want to talk a little bit about some of your readings and how animals have come up, because I know some of those stories based on some of the writing we've done for the book so far. Mm-hmm. And so the first one, and this, I don't know, this isn't for our book, but this is something I read in Eric Meadows', I guess his first or second book. I don't know how to count it, because basically it's the second book that Elisa put out, that was one in which it was written in first person in Eric's voice. And one of the things that happens in that is he encounters his dog, and he has basically, from what I understand, a conversation with his dog. Are you familiar with that? And can you talk about that at all?
Is this his dog, Peanut?
I think so. Yeah. So this dog had crossed over, and then he crossed over and encountered his dog. And it was a little bit surprising, some of the information he was getting from his dog. Do you remember at all? Don't. Okay.
I was in full trance when
Oh, that's right.
So a lot of what's in the book, I don't have conscious memory of. Like, I have to go back and read it, and then.
I see. So as you know that, oh, here we go. My mail's arriving. As you know, Eric had Tourette's, and there were times when he was a little bit. He kind of would tease his dog, but he didn't realize he was doing anything wrong. He thought it was all in good fun. And then when he connected with his dog after, as a spirit, the dog said, "Yeah, I love you a lot," but that was kind of irritating. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what kind of communication we'll be able to have with our pets when we get to the other side, and what that experience is like. Do you know?
What I've seen in my sessions, I think we're going to be shocked that they are equally as intelligent and had insight on things that we didn't know. And you're going to have moments where you sit down in a conversation that will sound and feel just as fluid as this English conversation we're having now. And you might be listening to things that you won't be very proud of.
Right. Hopefully. Do you have any experience with because I believe that you've talked to people's family members who have crossed over, right? And they're saying, "Oh yeah, our dog Spot is here." And have they talked about, if they pass any information on from the animal about how they're doing? Or
the last one I had where an animal showed up, it was an Australian Shepherd dog. And oh no, that was two cats. So a few ago, that the whole family was here. The father was there that had crossed over.
Okay.
And the whole reason of the conversation was to connect to the father. Then in midstream, the father looked up and he said, "By the way, I have your dog. Your dog's mine."
Yeah.
Kind of rude.
Yeah.
Explain what the dog looked like, and said when she had passed over and how great of a dog she was, and not to be too concerned that she's still in the family. And then at the end of the session, they gave some allotted time, and the dog was able to express how it was crossing over and how difficult it was.
Oh wow! So it wasn't like some kind spirit guide yanked him out before, or yanked her out before. No, it was. Oh my gosh. Okay.
And it was a true experience, something that everybody in the family needed to witness or be a part of.
Wow. Do you know? So can you talk a little bit about what that was like for the animal, the dog?
From what I remember, the way the Australian Shepherd described it was a lot of focus on being uncomfortable physically.
Hmm.
But the worst part of the pain was the inability to soothe or comfort the people
Right.
sitting next to her.
Right.
And that was the real anxiety, struggle, pain. Like the dog was able to say, yeah, that's really hurting and that's not doing well and that's painful, but do that. I want to be there with you guys and I want to help.
Right.
So like really emotional to listen to.
So they
It's like
could.
a sense of selflessness.
Wow. So the animal could feel all the emotion coming from uh, his human companions, and that was making. I know it's tough. It's like it's not like you can. It's hard to like be happy at that moment, right? And especially if you see your animal suffering.
I thought it was interesting. I asked the question of, was that your purpose or your contract or what you could contribute to the family?
Mhm.
And that was a yes. And the animal didn't feel like it was time to let go, but the contract was already complete.
I,
So this was not like there was something left untethered, and therefore the dog had to really like stay alive to make it complete. It was already done, but the dog had such a commitment and a focus to stay with the family. So the whole lesson of the more drawn out transition was for the dog to learn how to let go and for the dog to learn, I did it. I'm okay. I
oh,
can get
wow.
by. Like
Right.
it was, do you know what I mean? It was kind of flipped. It wasn't necessarily people pushing through those emotions.
We don't think of animals as having life plans and contracts and lessons to learn, but I guess that's part of it, right?
Yes, it is.
I watch a lot of the Travel Channel, which should be the Ghosts Afterlife channel these days, and I heard someone say, someone who was like a paranormal investigator made a comment that part of our life transition, part of our life lesson, is to let go of this life. And so like the ghosts that are, or the spirits that are kind of hanging around, part of it's just they don't want to let go, and that's
Mhm.
part of our journey as a spirit. And I guess that's true for dogs as well. So the loved one who was on the other side saying, your dog's mine now. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I've heard I've read accounts of mediums interacting with spirits, right? And the loved one will say, yeah, I'm taking care of your dog now, as if they're feeding it and cleaning out the litter box and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously that part, they're not really, it's not like an ownership thing, is it? Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
No, it was more of a big joke of, I have your dog now. Like,
Oh, I
you
see.
know, look where I am. Like, you can't be with her, but I can. I've
Right.
got a dog. She's
I,
mine.
I see. Got it. All right. All right.
So more of a transition joke. But you're right. It's like they're independent contractors.
Right.
They don't coexist in spaces where they are, submissive or in the need of somebody else's care to thrive. They can thrive independently all on their own.
Right. Because I think of like the ideal, because obviously there's that saying about it's not heaven unless my dog or cat or my animal companion is going to be there. And I like to imagine that, that it's more like the relationship we have here. I mean, part of the reason why, let's face it, that animals can be easier than babies is that the animals don't tell us mean things, right? They don't talk back, right? But I mean, if we're on the other side and we can communicate with them, are they? I mean, not they would say mean things, but you know what I'm saying. It's not that silent. It's no longer the silent partnership anymore, right? It's clearly they're communicating.
I wish that I had the strength of the animal that every time there wasn't something going on, like that felt good, just to leave the room. Because that's what they do. They just get up and they walk out.
Right, right.
And like, excuse me, I was talking to you. Did you eat that garbage? What happened? And they just leave. And it's so funny. We're like, oh my God. And I think we think it's so funny because we wish we were that strong and that ballsy to express, I don't care how you judge me. I ate the garbage. I'm walking away. Like, I just think it's great.
So, I mean, but can we talk a little bit about what it could be like for us on the other side with our animal companion? I mean, because and this gets too complex, but like if our animals are coming back, again and again. Let's say I have a cat named Lucy and she comes back as my cat Emily. If I cross over, is she going to be one or the other, or just a blob of light? And I'm not going to experience her as a cat, but as a spirit. Can you elaborate as far as you know?
So explain that again. Are we talking about?
So like I cross over and
yes, you're there.
I get to see my animals who've crossed over before me, right?
Yes, but you have a cat that's done the incarnation, same
right.
So
and now she's had a couple lifetimes with me, but she's on the other side, and we've reunited. Well, I experienced that animal as like my younger, the cat I had when I was younger, Lucy, or later Emily, or is it just going to be a blob of light, or you don't know?
Could possibly be a blob of light. I don't know. Who did you fall in love with more?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or maybe it's each time she reincarnated or incarnated, she had a flare of a different touch each time, but the constant habit and soul and presence.
Right.
So maybe at different times you need that little bit of flair, and so she'll be looking like this animal rather than that one at certain times. I'm not really certain. That's a great question.
Right. Yeah. So one of my favorite stories is the dog Chico, and we've talked about this quite a bit. Do you remember the Min Pin Chihuahua that was in one of your readings? Can you talk about that story?
The Min Pin Chihuahua?
Yeah.
I had a woman call me, and she wanted to talk to her Chico. And I thought that was just the name or a nickname of a person. And I had 5 spirits in the room with me. And I kept looking at them. I was like, Chico, like, talk to me, somebody. And it was real quiet. And I was like, can you say the name again? Like, call on Chico. Like, and then like people just kind of stood aside. And there was this tiny little light on the floor. I'm looking at the floor. And I was like, what's happening? That's Chico. And I was like, oh my God, this woman mentioned nothing that she wanted to communicate with an animal or that it was a tiny one, nothing. And she's like, I just miss my Chico so much, and and I love him so much and all this. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't think Chico is a person. She's like, no, it's not. Chico's my dog. I'm like, okay, well, I've got this really tiny dog here, and it looks like, and it just so happened to be my neighbor had a Chihuahua Min Pin mix. I was like, it looks like a Chihuahua Min Pin mix, but like the tiny kind. She goes, oh my God, that's Chico. Chico is, and he indeed was that mix, and she was very happy, and I'm confused. And she's crying, and I'm just waiting to see what in the world's going to happen, because I, at this time, have not had a serious connection to an animal that would do anything more than I love you, thank you for helping. And Chico just kind of came forward and seized the day and took over the reading, gave advice, explained the situation in the home, talked about the boyfriend, talked about everything that happened. But I mean, that was a huge shock.
Right.
The thing that brought the most peace is Chico was able to describe that he'd been somewhat of a bad boy. That
he kind of had like a mysterious crossing over. She didn't know. The person calling in, didn't know what happened. Right? She just found him one day.
Yeah. So it unfolds where he explains he didn't get to say goodbye to her, and that he was a bad boy, and he escaped the fence in the back and got out, and he was visiting the brown dog up the street. And so when he would show me, we were able to count houses, like 1, 2, 3. It was like a third, fourth house on the same side of the street. And he considered that a friend, the brown dog.
The dog.
And that he had gotten out and walked down. And the brown dog had some food out. And so there was confirmation that a brown dog did live there and was an outside dog and did have like food out, something of that nature. And that dog saw the other one as a threat and mouthed the little Min Pin mix and caused a lot of damage. And
Chico was getting to his food, as I recall. Is that right?
Yes, he wanted to share the food. That was the pit bull.
Right, right.
And so I believe, for some reason I'm not remembering right now, but I do believe that the owner kind of walked Chico home and put Chico in the front yard. But Chico was already gone. There
Right.
was nothing you could have done to separate the two. Chico was so little and the brown dog was so big. And so Chico was already gone, but you can imagine the appearance of having your baby in the front yard with blood
Right,
everywhere.
right.
And the woman of the brown dog, from what I recall, Chico begged, please don't. Like, don't turn the brown dog in. Please don't, like,
Yeah,
blame her, because he took full responsibility of escaping and hightailing it down, and he did not want any pain on that other family.
right, right. Yeah, no, it's but so what's interesting is not only did it solve the mystery because you didn't know obviously that there was any strange mystery around how he crossed over, so he was able to convey that. And so what also is interesting is how Chico seemed to know so much. I mean, was discussing stuff about the boyfriend, and I've had animal communications with one of my cats, and she was giving me writing advice, right? So I mean, how do they know? In terms of like what should my next project be, and so I just how do they know all that? Is that something that they know when they're in the body, or is that something that they know once they crossed over?
In the body.
Oh, in the body. Okay.
In the body. I so think we underestimate our animals' intelligence constantly, all the time.
Right. Right. How did this experience change how you looked at your cats when you went after Chico?
Well, it screwed me up. Bad. Bad. I went home and I remember my outdoor boy, Tigger, was there, and I grabbed him and I was like, Tigger, I love you. Like, I know that you can understand me. And I would started to apologize, and I told him I wasn't going to baby talk to him anymore. Like, oh, I don't do it to him anymore. I call him Big Man.
uh,
I'm like, hey, Big Man, how's it going? And I act like we're all tough and we're good now. Like, we're two people. And he responds really well to it, actually. But no, that messed me up. Now I look at the animals around me. I even look at the wildlife. Like, we've got these two squirrels that were born next to our house, and they're always around. And then they bring their family, and they live there with us.
right.
And I look at them, and I'm like, I know you saw what I just did. I ate half that cake, and I'm not going to tell you. I know you know this, so now it's just between you and me. So,
Right.
if you can't talk to anybody, nobody's going to know it's me. I'm going to tell them I threw it away. Like,
right, exactly. It's funny. Yeah, I mean, we tend to forget that even though I mean, obviously they're gonna keep our secrets in this lifetime, right? The other question is, there was another dog that that you encountered. I think he wasn't a pit bull, but it was in that neighborhood, and I can't think of what breed he was. His name was King. Do you remember King and Kate?
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about their relationship and what what his life plan was and how is it related to hers? Do you remember?
I remember a little bit. That was very, very emotional. Do you see all my lights flickering?
Yes. What is that?
I don't know. I've had one hell of a day with a lot of paranormal activity.
Right. Yes. And I noticed the chimes were ringing earlier when we were talking about. Yeah.
I'm not even listening. I'm just trying to stay present. Like, everything is frying that I'm touching. My lights are going crazy. The clocks are wrong. I'm like, what is the message?
Yeah. Right. Can we
me down?
Right. Can we blame our technical difficulties on this?
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah. That stemmed from it, and then it just kind of spiraled. My
Right.
emails, my computer wouldn't send out, nothing. I couldn't use the Sling Studio that we normally use. It wouldn't log in. I mean, it was just, and it was so frantic and back to back. I didn't even think to text you or do anything like that. It's just really interesting.
It is interesting. So let's talk.
King.
Let's talk about King. Yeah, can we?
I know I don't remember much. I remember he was um, very attached to his mommy.
Right, she was very attached to him.
I know you have to like inform me a little bit. I know he was the one who talked about his passing, and
Yes,
it was a different perspective because it was from him.
right. It was from his perspective, and it was very interesting. There was no tunnel and white light. It was interesting. So Kate, she lives in, I want to say, New Jersey, and she had this really big muscular dog, and they were like life partners, and they really had this an amazing connection. But
Twin flame connection, wasn't it?
right, something like that. But I'm probably even more in my understanding. Twin flames can be, so could be some conflict in that, and I don't think, and this would be more of a soulmate type of thing. But as I recall, they were so close that he was kind of preventing. Do you remember? He was kind of preventing her from creating a relationship. Do you remember? She got him after a divorce, and that they were,
Remember, he was the head of the household.
Right. Well, I mean, to the point where like Kate would have a male friend stay over the night, and he would like wake up in the middle of the night and go in the spare bedroom, and Kate and King were like spooning. So clearly it was so okay. So you don't remember this? Okay. So all right. And then let's talk about another animal. I know you probably remember. I think this was in your memoir. It was a neighbor's dog.
Moose.
Moose, right? I knew he had a cute name. Can you talk about Moose?
Moose, the chocolate lab.
Right. That's tough.
I had the pleasure of knowing him for probably 6 years before he got very old. And he was hysterical. Like, to me, I enjoy how animals have specific relationships with people. And some it's a total go, and some it's like a, I'm not even going to smell your butt. I'm just going to leave. So he had that kind of, I know who my people are. But when he started getting sick, him and his daddy, Mike, they were so in love. They did everything, sports, swimming, canoeing, boating, riding. They were just sports buddies. And Mike was willing to do anything and everything that Moose needed. They were nervous about helping him cross over because they thought that maybe it was too soon, and they asked me to come over, and I said, great. So I came over and I looked at him, and he hadn't gotten up for a whole day, and he wasn't eating, and he wasn't drinking. And when I came over, he got up. Wow. He was like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? He put his best on. So I gave him some light. I helped him, and he started eating. He started drinking a little. Mike goes, look at that. Is he trying to show off? And I was like, well, when not a stranger, but when somebody else comes in that they admire, sometimes they don't want to show their weakness. So he'd put it together for me. And then when I would leave, he would then start to check out, go into his hospice mode and into transition. And he was very good at telling me how much time.
You just need to come over and live there, and then he would be fine. Right.
He'd probably be tired of that after like 4 days and be like, screw this.
Right.
But he kept doing that every time I come over and check on him. He'd lift his head when he hadn't lifted his head all day. He'd lift it and he'd be like, hey, and he'd wag his tail and he'd respond, whereas he wasn't doing that with his parents anymore. And I really want you parents out there to know that is a compliment. That means they feel so comfortable with you that they are giving you their truest emotional response. Here I am, someone who lives across the street that he loves hanging out with. He's putting on a face for me. It doesn't mean that he's fine and he doesn't want to go. So when I came over and he lifted his head and he drank a little bit, he was like, I'm done. Like, I'm good. So we called it, and I told them, and they arranged for an at-home vet to come. And she arrived, and I got to sit there with him. Transitions they're beautiful and they're so hard.
Right, yeah.
I got to see his light, and I got to see the family members, family members that showed up in spirit. And there was another dog that was there that looked like him, and they all helped him transition. And I sat there and I held space. I did Reiki and some energy work and helped Mike and Carrie. That was like their first baby before human babies.
Right.
And very difficult, but so beautiful. And then afterwards, he came back and he told me he was with his brothers and his sisters, and he was jumping off docks and he was doing all these activities and he loved that he could move his body again. It's like,
Right.
that's what he was longing to do.
Right. Because yeah, exactly. You get recycled or you get a new body, or just over there. It's a body of light, but they can still be a dog and do dog things on that on the other side. I take it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We're getting a lot of questions, and I guess this would be related for specific about specific animals, and it's actually a really good general question. Okay, so our animal crosses over, and we really want to connect with them, make sure they're okay. What would be your advice for the best way to do that?
I would say keep a hold of your dogs or cats or whatever, ferret, their bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like keep a hold of something that's super intimate to them. So this is a technique called I had psychomantium on the tip of my tongue, and that's not it.
Psychometry.
Psychometry, where you hold the item so you can kind of get closer to the vibrations, and focus on your pet animal's name first and foremost.
Okay.
Then go through memories, real memories, ones that you've done together, ones that you loved. If you have a hard time doing that, pull up pictures.
Okay.
After that, focus on how you feel with your animal. Think of emotions, how they supported you, go through down an emotional memory. After that, try to get a little more open or calm to where you're not inundating your brain or your heart with certain memories. This is almost like a prepping or a fluffing of your energy to be prepared to receive something from them. Because sometimes we're super scared in hearing from someone that we love. Because what if they say something that we didn't appreciate? Kind of like how Peanut did with Eric. It was kind of cool how you teased me and poked at me and yelled at me or whatever it was. Chasing. So just know that they do want to communicate with you. So once you open that up, then you can just simply ask, are you here with me? Yes or no? And say the words out loud, yes or no.
Right.
And you will get a sense that you're more attracted to one answer than the other. Mm-hmm. Accept it at face value. Please don't try to read into it more. None of that. And you can then say, do you know how much I miss you or love you or something like that? Yes or no. And at the end, maybe you could say, do you have a message for me? Yes or no, which is an open-ended thing. They could say yes. You could say, what is it? And then just kind of sit back with the item and let your imagination run. See what's shown to you, what colors, what blobs. Everything is going to have a specific meaning for you. It may not look like how you want it to, but just letting it come to you is perfect in and of itself. When you're done, close up. Even if you feel like you didn't get anything, you're probably did, but you had expectations that kind of dwindled it out. And just say, thank you so much for giving me the space. Thank you so much for the time. I'm going to try again maybe tomorrow or next week. And then just set it down. And then when you're ready again, pick it up and keep trying. The more you put effort into it, the more you invest your energy into it, the more of a response you'll get. And it does require some kind of discipline and consistency to keep coming back.
Right. Because I imagine if you're doing some of that, there's going to be a lot of emotion coming through, and you're thinking, especially if the loss is new, do you need to kind of clear the what's the word, the grief, to get this message, or can it come in through the grief?
It's more difficult coming through grief.
Okay.
We mentioned this, that grief is very low, dense vibration, so it grounds you very hard. And if you can just imagine for a second, if you're really grounded, mm-hmm. and that's on maybe this level, and spirit, where they communicate, it's like up here.
Right.
So
sure.
How do we get you guys on the same plane? By doing that is by thinking of their name, going down memory lane, going down emotional lane, because do you remember when we did the thing and they jumped off that bridge? Oh my God, that was a good memory. And then boom, 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 you're inching out of grief and you're getting into this exploratory, and that's the point that we need to get you at. They'll come down and talk to you.
Yeah, and I think if you can think of a really silly memory associated with the animal, that where they did something cute or funny, where you could get you laughing a little bit so that you're not so down in the. Yeah, I was at a Brian Weiss conference, and he had us with our neighbor trade objects. So I was, I don't remember what it was. It was a ring, I think. And I got this image of, this was odd because I'd never, didn't know this woman that well. And I got this image of a bunny that was like sitting up on a couch, and it was like looking out and waiting for her to come home. And it's like, I could say a cat or a dog, but it was a bunny. So I mentioned this. She had a bunny in her 20s, and I described where it used to sit. So there's some validity in this technique. I mean, but obviously it's easier if if you don't have any expectations or whatever. But that was just imagery and this sense of when's she going to be home? When's she going to be home? When's she going to be home? And it was, that's crazy. That's great. That's great advice. And then,
so funny.
I would also say that to add to your advice on is that when you do get impressions in from the animal, to as soon as possible write it down, because even though you're not in an altered state, I find those type of memories, especially the details of those, you forget them easily. So once you come in, and when the session is done, write down what your impressions and then look at them later. You'll be surprised what you forgot about.
It's very true, because often we forget those little things that sparked us, and then we're back on the train of, I just need to get a message, and I just need to see them one more time, and I just need to, and then we're back to digging for those, almost survival or frantic connections when the conversation you had 3 days ago was beautiful. So if you do journal it, you can go back and read it first before you pick up that intimate thing.
Right.
Have this, think of the name, have those memories, have the emotional memories, and get back into it. It'll help.
Right. So I'm going to do a little plug for. So Jamie and I are writing a book about animals in the afterlife called Animals in the Light, and we have a website called animalsinthelight.com. I'm a little bit behind on getting some content up there, so I'm going to be working on it this weekend. I just want everyone to know who's following it that there'll be a lot more stuff coming up. But please go and visit us. There's a link there where if you have stories about your animals, about communication with them, about if they visited you after the fact, after they've crossed over, please write us, let us know, because these kind of stories we want to share, and maybe we'll connect with you and interview you for our book, because these are the kind of stories we want to hear. So do you want to take questions? What do you want to do, Miss Jamie?
I am posting that link with the stories, letting them know that's exactly what it is.
Okay, yes, I see. Okay.
You can take a few, 5 more minutes. And
okay. So we have time for 1 or 2 questions. If you have any broad general questions for Jamie or for myself about just animals in general, if you can keep it so it is general and applicable to more than just.
Well, shout out to Tom.
Pet would be great.
Yeah, he takes care of so many kitties. He's a rescue wonder. So hi, Tom. And hi, Kate. She said she was thinking about her beautiful cat author who died at Christmas, tears running down her face. That right there, that beautiful little moment would be great to take. Just sit back and stay with the tears, and then start thinking about more intimate moments and sweet moments. And even if you want, Kate, you can just say, Arthur, come visit me, come sit next to me. And then just in a really sweet, Arthur, are you here? Yes or no? And then just let conversation start to tumble, get the head out of the way. It's a little hard, but it's so warming.
So we have a great question from Barrett. We talked about a dog being our soulmates. Can you talk a little bit about the soulmates? I mean, because we hear that term bandied around, but can you talk a little bit about animals and our connections with them?
Soulmates are energies that we incarnate with frequently. So we have a really specific and very close connection to them. Different than a twin flame. So with our soulmates, they can be animals. They can be your pet companion, dog, canine, cat, bird, ferret, squirrel. I mean, it's just pretty wild. And I think how to identify that ferret is when you have that animal in your life. I think 3 signs. The first sign would be you two can look into each other's eyes, like for real, stare at each other. Because that's an aggressive trait with animals. You don't stare into somebody else's eyes. But this kind of looking is a deep I see you. The second telltale sign would be I'm listening to Maitland. This is really funny. To have friends come over and say, Barrett, what are you doing? You're treating that dog like a person. You're prioritizing that dog. That dog runs your life. What are you doing? You give that dog everything. You spoil that dog. Okay, that's a bit of a sign. And then the third sign Maitland is saying is that you have such a level of compassion that you understand or you know what your animal is feeling. And so they don't even have to give you the big pawing down or the growling. You just look at them and you go, ah, you want the bone broth tonight? I'll get you the bone broth. To an outsider, you're like, oh my God, are you talking to yourself again? You think the dog is giving you like a shopping list on what to do? You're like, we could probably chalk that up to soulmate material, Maitland says.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I guess people maybe don't know is that we tend to reincarnate in groups. So a lot of the people who are close to us in our lives, our friends, our family, we've known before, and that includes animals, right? So
yes.
So let's talk a little bit about. So Jamie and I have concretized our schedule a little bit more. I sent you the draft of it. So I'm going to post that once we get that finalized. I'm going to post it on our site so we have a little bit more predictable schedule for the show. And I think next time I'd like to. So the last show I showed some pictures of my cat, Mrs. Claus, who came back after she crossed over, and it got captured on my my webcam that was still set up in the room. Please look at our old show if you get a chance to. It's pretty remarkable. But after that, she came back for several visits, and several of those I have video evidence and electronic evidence that I can share like live on the show, like I did with the photos. So maybe next time we can do that. I
would love to see that video. So that show got over 2,000 views.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's one. I would love, guys, if you think this is interesting, share it. There is so much need for support with our animal companions and our animal relationships right now, especially evolutionary, looking at how we're changing from 3D to 5D. So coming away from the head,
right,
getting into the heart energy, really adapting the way that we live our lives to emotions rather than the logical side of things. And we're going to be face-to-face a lot with animals. And I think what we're going to see in a large scale in 2020, more animal rights movements and really aggressive ones where they try to humanize them, like they deserve this as well as we do. And I put a bunch of other extra lights in there, so at least I'd have light. But I think we're going to see that. And I think half of us are going to go, this is so crazy, man. I'm like, a frog is a frog is a frog.
Right.
Well, yes, let's take care of the earth so that the frog can have a home, but geez. But then the other half of us are going to go, so I totally get it. Like, we need this. So I believe that what Brian and I are doing is a very healthy ground level understanding basic foundations for when we hit this stride that, you know, it's not cuckoo and it's not odd and it's not weird to be talking about this kind of relationship.
Right. One of the things I find interesting is when I'm with somebody and I tell them about Mrs. Claus crossing over, and so I'm showing a picture of Mrs. Claus, and then I flip to the first picture of her in the camera that's shaped just like a cat. I get the chills, and I feel it from their direction. So if they're on my left, I can feel them. I can feel the chills kind of emanating from them, and I get the chills, and then they'll say, "I just got the chills," and it's amazing how visceral those images are, and you know, to the effect. I did ask her for a sign, but to the effect that she knew we were making this book, or the powers that be knew that, and we had the opportunity to show those photos and to show, hey, look, our animals do survive and they're around. I mean, and so next show I will demonstrate and I'll tell stories about how the cat, Mrs. Claus, kept coming around. So, and the weird thing is I'm still getting some kind of paranormal stuff happening that seems to be animal related. So maybe we can talk about that too. I don't know. I'm assuming, I don't know what it is. So maybe you can help me with that. Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Right. Okay.
And I'll definitely be looking for the email for the schedule so we can get it out there.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Get more with this.
Right.
Can
Right.
you see the light show? I mean, it's pretty dang obvious.
Right.
Maybe because I have the lights on. It happened throughout my class. I taught a class today. And even in class, Brian, we got some compliments on animals in the light.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Please tell your friends about it and send it to the website, because the more interest we get, the sooner our book will be out. So that's where.
Yes, that's very true. Let's make this happen.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And to all the Luminaires out there, thank you so much for your time. Please like, follow, subscribe, share. All of that helps us with the goal of getting the content and the book out. We'd really appreciate it. All right, everybody take care. We'll see you in February. Bye, Brian.
Bye.
I don't know how to turn this off, so we're going to sit here for a little bit until I figure it out. Okay, I got it.